Oh dear, 2013 is not really going well for you, is it, Marvel?
Yo, dudes, the Empire's pretty chill. Maybe you could, join it or something.
Hey everyone, Lucimus Prime here. So, it is time for another movie review in my marathon of the Marvel Cinematic Universe's Infinity Saga movies. And today I'm going to be reviewing what is, of course, the 8th installment of the franchise overall, and is also the 2nd installment of the THOR movies. And this film, of course, as you've seen by the title and the thumbnail, is, of course, none other than 2013's THOR: The Dark World, directed, of course, by Alan Taylor, and is, of course, the 8th one overall to be released, and the 2nd one to be released in Phase 2 of the MCU. So, how was the movie made? So, development of a sequel to THOR began in April 2011 when producer Kevin Feige announced plans for it to follow the MCU crossover film, The Avengers. And in July, the director of the first THOR movie, Kenneth Branagh, withdrew from directing the sequel. Brian Kirk and Patty Jenkins were considered to replace him before Alan Taylor was hired in January 2012. The supporting cast filled out in August 2012 with the hiring of Christopher Eccleston and Adi Wale as the film's villains. Filming took place from September to December 2012, primarily in Surrey, England, as well as in Iceland and London. Alan Taylor wanted the film to be more grounded than THOR, inspired by his work on Game of Thrones. He hired Carter Burwell to compose the score, but Marvel replaced Burwell with Brian Tyler. The film premiered at the Odeon Leicester Square in London on October 22nd, 2013, and was released in the United States on November 8th, as part of Phase 2 of the MCU. The film was a commercial success, grossing over $644 million worldwide, and becoming the 10th highest grossing film of 2013. It received praise for the performances of Chris Hemsworth and Tom Hiddleston, visual effects and action sequences, but was criticised for its generic villain and lack of depth. And you know I can't agree more with criticisms. And retrospectively, Alan Taylor has expressed dissatisfaction with the film, stating that Marvel substantially altered it from his original vision in post-production. So that really sucks, doesn't it? When it comes to what I think of this movie then, so when I was young, guys, I gave this movie a watch because I was hoping it would be better than Iron Man 3, because Iron Man 3, as you guys know, I was really disappointed when I first saw it when I was young, especially because of how much I loved the first Avengers movie. So I saw this movie when I was young, and unfortunately, once again, it was a disappointment. Now, was it as bad as or worse than Iron Man 3? Well, not in my opinion, because personally, guys, I think this movie is slightly better than Iron Man 3, if I want to be honest, but still not that good of a movie in my opinion. It's probably my least favorite THOR movie I've seen so far. But it does have some good things in it, which prevents it from being trash, though, but it does have some things in it that I do hate. So, what is the movie about? So, in the film, Thor and Loki team up to save the 9 realms from the Dark Elves, led of course by the film's villain, Malekith. When it comes to what I think is good about a movie, so despite me not really being a fan of this movie that much, it being my least favourite THOR movie that I've seen so far, there is a few good qualities about it. So Chris Hemsworth once again reprises his role as Thor, and he does the best he can in this movie, in my opinion. For it is worth, in my opinion, he is the best part of the movie and gives a great performance as Thor. You know, that's always will be my favourite role of his, and he was a perfect casting for a role. And in this movie, he does do his best with the direction he's given. Even though, in my opinion, the direction is very questionable. And Natalie Portman is also good with what she's given as Jane Foster as well, in my opinion. I think she does her best with her direction in the movie as well. But I still think that some of the writing in this film was still very questionable, though. And for what it is also worth, I did also as well, once again, love Tom Hiddleston as Loki with what he had in the movie, although there is unfortunately a bad quality I do have with Loki in this film, which I'll get to, but for what it is worth, Tom Hiddleston still did a great job of playing Loki, and he's still a perfect casting in my opinion. I also, as well, once again liked Idris Elba as Heimdall as well. I thought he was good in this movie, what he was given as Heimdall as well, in my opinion. And And I also once again liked the casting of Warriors 3 who returned from the first movie, such as Ray Stevenson as Volstagg, and I also liked Tadanobu Asano as Hogan, and Thranduil is also in this film, guys, but he's now played by Zachary Levi due to Josh Dallas being busy filming for the show Once Upon a Time. So it's a shame that Josh Dallas didn't come back, but for what it is worth, Zachary Levi did a good job playing his character. Although personally, guys, I love Zachary Levi far more as Shazam in the DCEU. I think he's far better in that role because I feel that as Thranduil, he didn't really get to do much. I mean, the character as a whole barely appears in the films to begin with, so that sucks, doesn't it? I did also, as well, for what it is worth, like Jamie Alexander as Sif as well. She was also good with what she was given as well, in my opinion, and I also, once again, definitely love the legendary Sir Anthony Hopkins as Odin as well. Anthony Hopkins is a phenomenal actor, and despite this film having some questionable direction, I still think he did a great job playing Odin, in my opinion. And I also, as well, once again loved Renee Russo as Frigga, who is Thor's mother and Loki's adopted mother. She was also good as well in this movie, although there is unfortunately a thing that happens to her which I personally didn't like happening to her, which was disappointing. And as well as that, when it comes to other things which I think is good about a movie, the film also has a fair share of some pretty good cameos as well. So, for example, there's a pretty funny cameo appearance where Dr. Selvig is like talking about, you know, his theories to patients in a mental ward, and we get a cameo appearance by the legendary Stan Lee, who is a patient asking, "Yeah, can I have my shoe back?" when Selvig asks us any questions. Like, that is just hilarious, and Stan Lee is an absolute legend, and yeah, rest in peace, Stan Lee. Thank you for everything that you've done for Marvel. You're an absolute legend. Without you, we wouldn't have any of these iconic characters who you co-created with people at Marvel. You're an absolute legend, Stan. Thank you for everything. Rest in peace. And also as well, for what it is also worth, the film also has a pretty good mid-credit scheme of cameo appearances because it's revealed that Volstagg and Sif are visiting the Collector, who is, of course, played in this by Benicio del Toro, and the Collector is one of my favourite roles of Benicio del Toro. He's a great actor, and I think he plays him really well in this first appearance, and then entrusting, of course, the Ether, which of course is the reality stone revealed in this movie, into his care, and of course, as they're leaving, of course, the Collector says that he wants to acquire the other 5 stones. So that was definitely very exciting right there, and was a nice setup with things to come, of course, afterwards in this saga. And also as well, when it comes to other things about a movie, now, there is also a reason why I can accept this movie as being canon to the MCU franchise, and why I think it's also slightly better than Iron Man 3, in my opinion, because, you know how I said that, in my opinion, Iron Man 3 has no reason to exist because it doesn't connect to the rest of the franchise, and the franchise, it pretty much ignores it afterwards? Well, this film, however, does something important for what it is worth, because it introduces us to another Infinity Stone. Because, as you guys will know, the previous movies introduced us to the Space Stone, which of course is the Tesseract. Whereas this film, of course, introduces the Ether, which is also known as the Reality Stone, the red one. So this film, in my opinion, for what it is worth, despite not being that good in my opinion, is important because it introduces us to the Reality Stone. Because this is the Infinity Saga, of course. So they did take the time of introducing each stone to a franchise. They did it really well, in my opinion. They didn't rush things, of course, compared to this other saga, which is happening, you know, the Multiverse Saga, which I thankfully refused to watch after I retired, after I saw Spider-Man No Way Home. And other things about the movie is, for what it is also worth, in my opinion, the fight scenes are also not that bad, to be honest. I think they're pretty decent to watch, and they're very well choreographed for what it is worth, and I think, you know, they did a very good job with visual effects as well, because they definitely looked really good, in my opinion, for its time, because this film is 10 years old, guys, pretty much this year, because it came out in October 2013. So, like, it's going to be 10 years old this year, and the visual effects for that time are brilliant, in my opinion. They've aged really well. Too bad the same couldn't be said for the recent MCU stuff, isn't it? And also, as well, the CGI is also really good too, as well, in my opinion. And I also definitely like Brian Tyler's musical score in this movie. I think he did a really great job composing the music. It's a shame we didn't hear Carter Burwell's original score, you know, which he was going to be composing before he got replaced by Brian Tyler. But in my opinion, Brian Tyler's score was good. And Brian Tyler, in my opinion, is a very underrated composer. And my personal favourite soundtrack by him is his soundtrack for the show Transformers Prime. But I still think his music for this film was great, in my opinion. And I definitely think it also helped set the scenes, which in my opinion were heartbreaking and emotional for what it is worth, despite this film not being that good. I think his music was really good for it. And now when it comes to other scenes as well, now, also, another reason why, in my opinion, this film isn't as bad as Iron Man 3, in my opinion, is also as well because after I, of course, saw Avengers Endgame, that movie, of course, had a scene where Thor from the future interacts with his mother from another timeline when he's going back, of course, to get the reality stone, and also a past version of Mjolnir. And that scene, in my opinion, you know, was good, and it helped me appreciate this movie a lot more. And knowing what's become of the MCU nowadays, it makes me appreciate this movie a lot more. That's why I don't think it's bad. I think it's just one of the MCU's weaker, mediocre movies, in my opinion. For what it is worth, I would definitely gladly watch this over whatever the hell Thor Walk and Blunder is, as I nickname it, because I refuse to watch that movie. I've seen, you know, some clips of it, and it looks absolutely horrible. I don't know what they were thinking making that movie. And several of my close friends also hated it as well. And you know what? I can't say I blame them. That it makes me even more glad that I stopped watching MCU after I saw Spider-Man No Way Home, because it's just all gone downhill, to be honest, and it's ridiculous. All I can say is that, you know, for what it is worth, I really appreciate this movie nowadays. However, though, despite that, unfortunately, this film does have some pretty bad things in it, which is why I think it's mediocre. So, just like with Iron Man 3, this film once again has pretty bad villains. So, the main villain of this movie, guys, of course, is Malekith, who is, of course, the leader of the Dark Elves. And personally, guys, in my opinion, this movie massacred Malekith. Like, because he was such a bland, boring, and generic villain who I didn't care about at all. Like, I didn't find him intimidating either. Now, I love Christopher Eccleston, guys, as the Ninth Doctor in Doctor Who, but in my opinion, he sucked as Malekith. I think it's probably his worst role that I've seen. And I feel bad for him because he put a lot of effort into researching the character, because he's from Norse mythology as well as, of course, from Marvel Comics. You know, like how the THOR franchise is based on Norse mythology. So he did his homework, but unfortunately, it was pointless because he had pretty bad direction to work with, and I felt bad for him. Like, he could have done so much better if he had better direction to work with. It's very disappointing because Malekith was such a bland villain. Personally, guys, I like the character much better in the cartoons that I saw when I was a kid. I think he's much better in those, if I'm to be honest. But in this film, Malekith absolutely sucked. And also, guys, the other villain in this movie is also one of Malekith's lieutenants, of course, which is Algrim, also known as Curse. And personally, guys, I did not like Curse in this film, who was, of course, played by Adewale, and like, because he looked nothing like how he does in the comics, because in the comics, guys, the character's yellow, whereas in this movie, he looks like he's, like, dark grey or something with, like, red markings on him. That's not Curse. And I know this because I played Lego Marvel Super Heroes, the first Lego game of Marvel, and he's yellow in that based on the comics. So, this film was very unfaithful to how he appears in the comics. And also as well, in my opinion, this movie also ruined Eric Selvig as well for me, because for some reason, guys, after the events of the Avengers, he's now crazy. So, like, I don't know what happened to Selvig at all in this movie, and, like, when I saw him in the movie, especially, of course, in the scene in Stonehenge, which I'm not going to get into detail about because it is pretty cringe, I was absolutely embarrassed watching his scenes. Like, just wow. Also, once again, Kat Dennings as Darcy Lewis. Personally, guys, I don't like Darcy, and in this movie, I thought she was much more annoying than she was in the first Thor movie, in my opinion. Because as much as I like the first Thor movie, she's probably one of my biggest bad qualities of the film because how annoying she is. But in this movie, she's much worse, in my opinion. So that really didn't work for me at all, to be honest. How they made her much more annoying. Like, come on, that's just ridiculous. Like, they should have made her more likeable, but sadly not. Like, I'm sure that they could have given Kat Dennings better direction to make her character more likeable, but sadly not. That really sucked, doesn't it? When it comes to Frigga as well, I also did not like how she got killed off less than an hour into a movie. And that was just disappointing because I liked her in the first movie. Thankfully, of course, Endgame made me like her a lot more. And it made me appreciate the movie for what it is worth. It was just disappointing how she got killed off, you know, less than an hour into a movie, sadly. Very disappointing. But despite that, however, I do think that her funeral scene is very emotional. That's why I said, in my opinion, Brian Tyler's musical score can get emotional at times, and that's probably going to be applied to her funeral scene because of the music. It was handled really well, in my opinion. But I still didn't like how she got killed off, you know, less than an hour into a movie. When it comes to Loki as well, guys, now, while I did once again love Tom Hiddleston's performance in this movie as Loki, perfect casting, my favourite role of Tom, I personally did not like how he was unfortunately underutilised quite a lot in it. It's because while he was such a great villain in the first Avengers movie, and I wanted to see more of him, in this movie he spends most of the first half of the film in a prison, and then he doesn't team up with Thor until after, of course, you know, Frigga's death, and they work together. But unfortunately, he appears to have been killed by curse. So, like, really, why would you underuse Loki like that? Come on. Like, you build him third in the cast after Chris Hemsworth and Natalie Portman, but you underuse him? That's ridiculous. But of course, his death is fake because it's already the end of the movie. Either, of course, he's impersonating Odin, but it was pretty confusing how he didn't explain where Odin was at the end of the movie. We had to find out, of course, later in Thor Ragnarok, didn't we? So yeah, I really do feel that, you know, Loki was underutilised because he spends most of the film in prison and doesn't really do much until after the attack on Asgard. So yeah, I feel like he was really underutilised, sadly. Yeah, it's a bit of a letdown, really, because how much I loved him in the first Avengers movie. Like, it's a big shame that after that movie, we unfortunately got two not very good movies in 2013. And I will say, guys, that if I didn't love Captain America Winter Soldier, I'd have probably stopped watching the MCU because of these two disappointing movies. So yeah. So despite this film being, in my opinion, slightly better than Iron Man 3, I still think it's disappointing and mediocre because of the villains, and also, as well, Loki being underutilised and killing off Frigga, and also Eric Silver being crazy for some reason, like, and Darcy being annoying. Like, that didn't work for me at all in this film, guys. This film could have been so much better if it had proper direction and was more favourable to the comics, but sadly not. But despite this film not being that good, I do appreciate it a lot after what's happened to the MCU in recent times. I no longer think it's one of the worst ones. I think it's one of the weaker movies, in my opinion. A mediocre movie. So yeah, the good thing, like I said, is that Chris Hemsworth is still the best part as Thor, and other cast members also do their best in this movie as well alongside him, and the music and visual effects were also good too, and of course introducing in the Reality Stone. So that's why, despite this one not being that good, I accept it as canon, because it introduced us to a Reality Stone as part of this Infinity Saga. So guys, this is me doing my review for 2013's Thor the Dark World. Sadly, in my opinion, the weakest Thor film that I've seen, because as you guys know, I flat out refuse to watch Walking Blunder, as I call it. I refuse to watch it because I heard nothing but bad news about it, and never will see it, ever. So I don't remember what I gave this film on my rank video that I did back in early 2021, but because I appreciate a lot of what's happening to the MCU nowadays, I now give it a pretty mediocre but still decent at the same time score of 6 out of 10. Because in my opinion, it's mediocre but not terrible, if I am to be honest. So I'm going to give it 6 out of 10. So guys, this is me doing my review for 2013's Thor the Dark World. So you know drill, guys. Be sure to give this video a like. Also, be sure to tell us in the comments what you guys think of Thor the Dark World. If you've seen it, in the comments below what you think of it. Also, be sure to join Team Prime by pressing subscribe if you're in the future. If you would like to be a member, you can press on using a PC Lads or Kilo subscription. And I'll see you all later.